Throughout our lives, there are choices. Sometimes the choices we make can lead us down a dark road where it seems you will never be able to find your way back. Such is the case that Fabian Santoyo was faced with 3 decades ago.
As far as a candle, coffee. The one thing I love about this is the peacefulness.
All seems calm and serene as Fabian drinks his morning coffee and paints what is in his heart. But to get to this point, he had to learn some tough lessons. Fabian comes from a military family and spent most of his early life on the south side of San Antonio. Growing up around a large family is something that Fabian reflects fondly upon. But there were some hard times and painful memories early on between Fabian and his father.
Me being his son and learning how to deal with that and seeing him hit my mom out of his frustration, what I just thought was him being mean, but it was maybe his frustration within himself, and him not knowing how to communicate that. Doing it for years and feeding into the demon, which is alcohol. And that's what kind of, at one point in my life, I decided I just wanted to be a total opposite of him. He's always gonna be part of me. I don't have to be the opposite of that. I can just be my version of that. My dad had put me, my mom, and my sister in a battered women's shelter. I remember waking up there in the bunk and knowing I didn't belong there and knowing that I needed to get my mom out.
Through the difficult times, Fabian was exposed to various faiths as a youth, and it is his personal faith that has helped him these last 30 years.
Growing up, I'd go to these different churches to see the different routines and from Baptist, with my grandmother. My dad was Catholic. And everything was, I wouldn't say a recital, but it was more standing up, getting down, standing up, getting down. Then it was Christian faith. I've always had my faith in God. And life had to teach me a little bit to pay attention a little bit more. Like I said, a lot of people say that they walk in their faith and that they, not only speak it, live it, and living it is the hard part.
It wasn't until his freshman year in high school that his family moved to the Marbach and Loop 410 area of San Antonio. It was here, at John Jay High School, where his life changed. Walking around your old high school is a very emotional experience for anyone, reflecting on the good times, the sad times, carefree times, or as in the case of Fabian, a life-changing event that happened during his freshman year here at John Jay.
Whoa, whoa. Man, they're so lucky. This is nice.
One evening we went back to John Jay to walk through the hallways, see the new additions to the campus since Fabian graduated in 1998.
This tree has been here since, It's just, I guess as you get older, you start looking at the little things.
For Fabian, his art class at Jay is where he found his true calling.
But with art class, Mr. Garza would be like, he would tell me, with the time you had with it, and touch, you'd be more responsible with your time. Some people didn't know to be responsible with their time, you just had to learn. But paint what you want to paint, but paint your best, whatever it is. And then he would throw on some creative music. I didn't know what to paint, so I was just painting what I was used to around the neighborhood, so I painted the Wu-Tang Clan. And this guy next to me painted the Beatles, right next to me, same art class.
John Jay Principal Teresa Cuellar was kind enough to show us around the campus, seeing the beautiful new auditorium, buildings, and technology that is now a part of John Jay. As amazing as that was for Fabian to see, there was one thing he wanted to see more than anything.
We get to that one side, I just want to take a picture of my locker, man, if that's okay. I know exactly where it's at.
I was about to find out why locker 3199 means so much to Fabian, and why he wanted to take a photo of himself with this particular locker.
Man, I didn't want to tell him about what happened in my locker.
What happened? I don't know.
I have a bad story. But it's a story that changed my life. Okay. Growing up around Marbach, and it was the hood. And sometimes things go around and you just learn to not say anything. There was a gun in the locker, in my locker.
And who put it there?
We shared lockers. And because there was 3 people to a locker. Mm-hmm. And I got in trouble because I didn't tell. Mm-hmm. Because those were the street rules, so to speak. Right. And then I remember going to getting locked up, leaving Principal Pruneda, walking me out with the cops. And I remember going to this locker with the principal.
No wonder you remember.
And the cops. And that was the one time I got evicted. I I had a felony as a freshman. It was nuts. I got, this was it right here. That's crazy.
Fabian and I spent some time at his locker talking about life and how his life changed the moment he opened that locker for Assistant Principal Perneda 30 years ago.
Yeah. Coming back to the same locker as a sophomore and a junior and a senior, but going over there to the ROTC building and being a different man and wearing a uniform and respect, and you are the company you keep, so I just kept better company, yeah, and sometimes, like, I think bad parts of people's life, like where you're scared to talk about, I don't say I'm proud of it, man, but if I didn't do that, I wouldn't be who I am now. But yeah, that's not me. I'm all about love, and sometimes people can get caught up in the wrong things that they're not part of, and you don't have to be around that. It's just choices. I think as an adolescent, as a kid, you think you just need to be quiet and just go with it and be quiet, or think it's cool, or I don't know what I was thinking really. Maybe my brain just wasn't connected as an adult. I guess I'm trying to justify it in my head, but there's no justification besides being a knucklehead. But I'm thankful that I had the opportunity to be able to, I guess, present myself differently. It was your community, your neighborhood, but you knew it wasn't you. But you had to figure out how to maneuver through it, and it's where faith, trust, and love, and changing your company that you keep, I think, Not that I was hanging out with gangsters and doing gangster stuff. It was just, you're just in the neighborhood, and things happen, and you're just like, oh, I wish I didn't see that. It's amazing to be back. Like, I'm very thankful. I'm very grateful. Because I could never see myself being where I'm at now. And I think that's a testament to God, because I couldn't see it being run any other way. It's not a hustle. It wasn't a book on success. It was just faith. Like, I remember being downstairs in the gym when Assistant Principal Perneda came and got me, and he was like, hey, let's take a little walk. And I was like, uh-oh. And I knew, but I couldn't tell him. You know what I mean? And yeah, I remember opening up the locker all nervous and being like, I don't know what that is. But luckily, as things went along, it was somebody else's backpack, and they were already, long story short, they fingerprinted it. I got acquitted. I had a great lesson, because being locked up is not for me. It's not for anybody. You just sit inside a little square. They tell you when to eat. You look at the little square up the top, and that's how you know it's daytime or nighttime. And it's not cool at all. It's horrible. And then it's a whole different society that I don't feel like I was part of.
About the time we were finished with our conversation, Principal Cuellar catches up with us, and she had a special gift for Fabian, something they give each graduating senior at John Jay today.
Mm-hmm. That the kids can be more than what they even think they can be, right?
Yes.
And so always do your best, but always remember where you're from. And so we give them challenge coins, and every senior gets a challenge coin. And so I'd like to gift y'all that so that y'all can continue. I mean, you obviously remember where you're from, but know that always be better than who you think you can be. Every day is a chance to be a better person.
Yes.
To do the right thing,
yes.
right? Because we all make mistakes, and
yes.
nobody's perfect.
Yes.
So, but what we do after we make those mistakes is what makes us and who we are.
Can I give you a hug?
Absolutely.
So I'm going to tell you something I probably shouldn't tell you.
Okay. Uh-oh.
Yeah. So like I just believe in just being honest and just everything. Like just ever since. So like when I was here, when you talked about everybody fails.
Yes.
That locker, when I was here it was a bad neighborhood. Mm-hmm. It's just a neighborhood I grew up in. There was a gun in that locker. We were sharing lockers, and I knew whose gun it was. Well, I didn't know whose gun it was, but I knew whose backpack it was. And I remember I got arrested here as a freshman and got expelled. And because I didn't tell. Because in the hood, you don't tell or you get in trouble.
Snitches get stitches.
Yeah, and that was a time where people were getting shot across the street. And it was nuts. And I remember going to jail and getting acquitted. And, you know, remembering, like, I was looking and I was like, nobody, I couldn't relate to anybody that was there, you know? And I left.
Not you.
Yeah. And I joined ROTC. I went in right before, I got arrested right before spring break, and I got out the day Michael Jordan came back to basketball, because I remember it was on TV. And yeah, I just remember I never turned back, and then my life just changed, and you're right, it's the changes you make. And I remember coming back to school as a sophomore, because I had to go to summer school to TAF, and coming back, and my friends going like, that's cool, you went to jail. And I was like, no, it's not. Yeah. It's the worst thing ever.
Good for you.
And as much as y'all try to, like, I earned stripes, it's the worst stripes ever. I'm blown away. Like, you know, and I don't know what else this more is in store for me. I can't wait to see what he has for me. I just walk in his faith, and I trust him, and that's where my life is meant to be lived, you know. We all have these paths. They don't build us. He does.
It is those paths in life that I wanted Fabian to capture on canvas. I asked him to paint something that represents his life, the hard times growing up, living in the Marbach area, the incident with the gun, and where he is now. Through all of that, his faith has always been an important part of his life.
You know, every morning I start with a prayer. You know, I don't do it because I was told to do it. I don't do it because I think it's going to give me a certain outcome. I do it because I want to do it. I do it because it makes me feel good.
This time capsule of everything I went through.
Fabian looks at art the way he looks at life. When things go wrong with a painting, he doesn't throw it away and start over. He uses what he has and makes it work.
So a painting maybe is never done, and even if it comes out funky the way you don't want it, it's still the way it's supposed to be, to me. It's just, I just didn't understand it yet, and I go with it. But that's how you do your best work, because you don't have the influence of other people. It's just coming straight out of your heart, and I think that's what, like, I like about art. Even when I did it at Jay, it was coming straight out of my heart. It wasn't even like that magazine ad that I got inspiration from. It was the musicians that I loved. It was something that I connected to.
Rewind to 1998, the summer after graduating from John Jay, an opportunity presented itself to Fabian. Once again, choices.
The first 3 years of my radio career, I was so young that I didn't understand what I was doing. Yeah, I never planned on being in radio at all. I thought I was going to be in the military. You know, I was going to join the Air Force or the Marines. You know, I remember I went over to the recruiters at Westlakes, and I mean, they were knocking on my door. I took the ASVAB. I was that ready. And then all of a sudden, God just put something in my path, just like everything else. And I just grabbed it and I ran with it.
And that's exactly what he did. He immersed himself in all aspects of radio for the next 15 years. In his own words, Fabian told me that radio to him was like Oz. He was the guy behind the curtain, theater of the mind. Along with the fame and excitement of working in radio came a world that consisted of drugs and other illegal activity that Fabian was witness to. And that was enough to get him to close that chapter of his life. Part of his decision to leave radio was because he lost some close family members. Very shortly after leaving radio, his dad was near the end of his life, and Fabian took care of him. Not an easy thing for anyone to do, considering the tattered relationship he had with his father growing up.
I think it was a combination of I didn't want to be like him, and I was trying to show him up for no reason. I think because of what he told me hurt, like he was telling me I wasn't enough. Everybody's enough. You know, little lessons that I learned as getting older, you know. I forgave him. And I think that's what God taught me too. Because I wasn't a forgiving man. I held on to grudges. I think that's just being an adolescent and the maturity level of my brain at the time. And when I went through the stuff with my dad, and I remember telling God, if I could forgive this man, I could forgive anybody. And I had to feed the man that I hated, you know, and taught me forgiveness. I cried, you know what I mean? But I did, it's my dad. And then I was just like, I forgive this guy. It wasn't his fault, it was just our lack of understanding of the situation, so to speak. And that's where I'm at now, man. That's where I find my peace. If I could forgive one of the most hated guys in my life, I could forgive anybody, and I could live at peace. And that makes me happy, man.
Losing his father was a low point in Fabian's life, but after his father passed is when Fabian looked into that blank canvas and started to paint once again.
Yeah, blank canvases are like, they're addictive like candy, I guess. You know, you start collecting them.
Have you ever thought about, or do you think maybe when we're born, we are a blank canvas, each one of us?
That's beautiful to see, man. Yeah, maybe. I never thought of it that way. Like, that's really cool, man. I'm gonna have to use that, Chris, for real, man, because I think you're right, man. Maybe everybody is a blank canvas. And some people are worried about their mess ups when they don't know that's the beautiful part of the picture. That sometimes you may be focused on this part, but they focus on that part, and they find the beauty in that, but you don't find the beauty in that. Paint ourselves through life, through the ups and downs and sideways, because it's not always good. But that's
all.
cool.
It's all us.
It's a part of life. I think that's what you, like, when you go through life, it can't always be roses, but the reason you understand the good parts is because you've been in the bad parts too, you know, and then you understand it and you appreciate it and you're grateful, and, you know, maybe that's the feeling of being blessed, you know, like, because you're able to just realize that, you know, and be happy in the situation you're in through him.
There are people in our lives that are there to support you. Maybe you don't realize it at the time, but with age and wisdom, you see that they only wanted the best for you. We do not always get the chance to talk to those people again, but I wanted Fabian to have the opportunity to talk to former assistant principal Pruneda 30 years later.
And I remember Pruneda was like, he's the one, it was assistant principal Pruneda's the one that saw me. He had a little doubt in me. He had a lot of doubt in me, and like, I get it. From something that happened like that, I would be very upset too.
Fred's Fish Fry is a Marbach staple, and for decades, Jay High School students would walk across the street to grab a bite to eat. It is here that Fabian got to see Mr. Pruneda again.
Never thought life does not seem real at times, you know what I mean? But I'm very thankful, very thankful. And you've always stayed in my heart because you were the first tree that shook me. Because like I was telling her, I was a stubborn kid, and a lot of my lessons had to be taught tough.
When I first became an administrator in the early 90s, the gangs were running rampant. You know, it was difficult because we had a lot of fights, you know, and it wasn't the playground scuffle, you know, there were the gang confrontations. Like right here, you know, we had them in the middle of the street. It's like on anything, like you with your art, you know, you've got something to work with, you know, and you make, you know, some great paintings because you created them, but you had something to work with. And I think in administration, or in my position at the time, whether it was a teacher, a coach, or an administrator, I had you guys to work with, you know, and I always felt like it's my responsibility to help you guys obtain or excel, and you can only do so much, because then if the material is not there, you're not going to succeed. You're talking about the Lord, and the Lord, if you're set right, the Lord takes care of you.
Correct.
Even if you're not set right, He takes care of you, you know, because He helps you get over those difficult times. But in this case, He helped me, you know. You know, I got the job at Jay, and I came from Jones to Jay, and
you walked through it.
And then that's when I ran into you guys. Did I get in trouble? Of course, everybody gets in trouble, you know. And you know, I did some things along my life I'm not too proud of, you know. But getting over those humps is what's important. You know, learning from them. And
it was a straight up mistake that I made. Like, there's no way I could justify it ever to this day. I'm just grateful that I got to go through it in what I feel like is a least scarring way.
But
like
that was because of you, who you are.
I remember when you showed me the homework, I kind of was there and I got up and I was like, well, that's not mine, so, you know, let's just figure out whose it is. Kind of like, you know, like I thought, like, you know, my job is here done, and that's when the cop sat me down, and I was just like, uh-oh.
This is serious stuff.
Yeah. Very thankful for you and everything you've done for me growing as a man. And you were very strict, very firm, and you gave me that opportunity. Like, you laid it out firm. You didn't like lean it my way or lean it the other way. You just said, this is what it is, and this is where you were at. What are you gonna do?
Unfortunately, there was a guy that He's probably your age. I don't know if you knew him. There was a gang fight right there, right in front of Jay. They had a fight there, and so police came, SAPD and Northside. So we brought maybe, I don't know, 20 guys in, you know, and divided them up. And the administrators, you take this, and I saw a guy that was a soccer player in club, not in here, and well, maybe he was playing for Jay, I don't know, but I was an administrator, I wasn't a coach anymore. And I saw him and I said, I want that one in my office. So they brought him in, and I said, what the hell are you doing, Richard?
Yeah.
And he said, no, I'm just down with the ball. He was a BBG, and so I started talking to him, and he said, I said, well, I won't call your dad. And his dad knew me from club soccer, so I called his dad. And he came right away, and they lived there on Brownleaf. And you know, we're talking to him, and I told him, I asked him, where did we go wrong as coaches, you know, in club? Where did we go wrong, you know, for you to have to join a gang when you can be in a soccer team, you know? And he said, he called me coach. He said, Coach, it wasn't you. She said, it was me. And I asked him, well, when the hell are you going to get out of it, you know? He said, I will. I said, when? And he said, I will. I said, when one of your family members gets killed or what? What? I said, they're going to drive by your house, come and try to shoot you, and they're going to kill your parent or your sister. What? No, he said, no, I'm going to get out. A week later, his dad got a bullet between the eyes. 1 week later.
Because of tragedies like that is partly what led Fabian to join the junior ROTC program at John Jay, where he learned to work as a team, he learned discipline, and most of all, he learned pride. Pride in who you are and where you come from. For Fabian, Marbach is home. Without shame, he is proud of where he comes from.
Marbach became the part of San Antonio that you could poke at all the time. Like the little stepbrother, so to speak. I don't want to be mean, but you know, like growing up, you'd be like, you could pick on this person, it's okay. It's not okay. You know, the person's special too, you know. Marbach's very special. When I got out of the hood and I went into radio, a lot of greatness came out of Marbach. A lot of people I met in Marbach are doing great things in the world.
I think what it means to a lot of people, I think it means home. To me, it means part of my life where things started to grow in different directions. You know, where maybe my safety bubble popped, you know what I mean? But yeah, to me, Marbach's home. Marbach's like going back to grandma's house, so to speak. Like, you know, that feeling. Think that like you see other people doing things and think it's not obtainable because of where you're from. It's not true. Not true at all. Yeah, do whatever you want to do. Live your dreams. I want to see it. Make this world beautiful. Move with love. Move with faith. And embrace where you come from.
Going through it together, never forgetting where you come from, and giving something back is important to Fabian. On one of our visits to John Jay, Fabian saw some students sitting in the front office and started to talk to them, letting them know that he came from Jay. He lived in this neighborhood. He made mistakes, and he learned to make better choices.
I just basically told him, I said, I don't have to know what you did. I don't want to know what you did. But I'll tell you what you can do. You can make better choices and know you're better than this. When we first started telling them, they were kind of giggling like it was funny. And that's why I sat down next to him and I was just like, bro, like, you know, like, I'm just like you, bro. And then I told him what my situation was. Right here, locker, right down the street. Choices you make, bro. I may not never see you again, man, but like, I expect better out of you. This is what it's about, like just making choices and knowing that like you don't have to be a follower of bad things.
I asked Fabian to save the last finishing touches of the artwork that I requested him to paint to be done inside the school. What started here 30 years ago with one wrong choice ends here 3 decades later with a brushstroke.
I think some of my paintings are not just a reflection of me, but a reflection of us. And when I mean us, especially someone that came from Jay, some of these people, just like this happened to be me, $31.99. You know what I mean? And like the tree of life and the paths you could take, you know? And where we're all from. It's your choice right now. After you watch this, you can choose to just continue doing what you're doing and just settle. Or start making changes. Live in the light. Get what is you deserve. And live a beautiful life, a fruitful life, and a life around great community. You can't have Marbach, it's mine.